Hey everyone, it's Rye, bringing you my third ranking tier list. This one's going to be, this is the most requested one, and probably the most controversial, and this is going to be just on the civs in Civ 5, Lekmod version 31.4. You'll notice that I actually removed the and friends here because I consulted with some of them very shortly for a little bit, but there's no broader discussion. This is just my opinions. Um, if you're interested, leave a comment below, and I'll make another one with them, and we'll like be arguing the whole time, I'm sure. Um, but I figured that video would take around 6 to 8 hours of discussion to make, where I could make this in probably an hour. So that's the rationale. But if you're interested, I'd be happy to do it. Those are a lot of fun to make with them. But yeah, just to preface this, I actually already made the tier list. I'm gonna be walking through every single civ one by one, explaining the rationale. And so if I kind of am doing this pretty fast, that's why. But yeah, this isn't like ad hoc kind of thing. Okay, so let's just jump right in. Oops. Okay, so this is the tier list maker that iGuy just released. Thank you, iGuy, to making this. It looks great. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take out this A minus. I think there's a pretty big gap between B and A. And similarly, I'm going to add a row above. Oops, I added like 5 rows above. I'm going to add a row above. And I'm going to make this double S because, in my opinion, there's 4 standout civs in the game. So this is what I'm going to work with. I'd encourage you all to make your own and see how it compares. But if you're just here for the content or whatever, yeah, feel free to stick around. So I figured we'll start with alphabetically. I think it kind of just makes the most sense. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna do the A plus. And we're gonna start with a COD. So a COD is a pretty good civ. They get a lot of early bonuses, but they also get a lot of late game scaling bonuses via courthouses and capturing city bonuses. Think of what Honor wants to do. A COD does everything Honor does, just a little bit better. They also have really strong Liberty Sim. The gimmick with the Lapitu doesn't really work, but it's still an upgraded spear, and spears are incredibly good. So I think this is an easy A plus. Um, a very very good strong civ, I'd say. I'm never gonna be unhappy playing a COD. Okay, Axum. Axum I have in B. It can be good. The stone thing, it definitely got a buff with this latest map, but it's hard to make that national epic work. Mostly because the national epic is such a bad wonder in general. You don't want to build it early, and now you're forced to, and it's like usually 7 or 8 turns to make. Once you get it up, your sim feels a lot better, but even then, it's just a weird civ in general. Um, Feels a little clunky to play. The early game benefits feel more like liabilities, and then the late game scaling isn't even that good because if you compare it to some of the other civs on our list, other civs get bigger bonuses per city than Axum does with a national epic up. So for that reason, I don't think Axum's that great. But again, like I know some people who love this civ, and it can be really good. If you have a lot of stone in your land, it can be extremely strong. So Arabia's dog shit. Their markets are pretty meh. You're getting double luxuries on luxuries that likely people don't want to give you doubles of. Like they know when you're trading these, they're giving you happiness. Um, so it's not like it's converting into happiness most of the time. And then because camels are so renowned, everyone prepares for camels. So you're not jumping anyone with camels ever. It's so predictable. If your neighbor doesn't have a forded pike or two on his borders against you, he's trolling. It's not like you're doing anything right. So the only way this civ works is if your opponents make very egregious mistakes. Okay, next one, Argentina. I think this is a civ people very much undervalue, but it's definitely better than a COD. Argentina is so consistent, especially on Liberty. They can one-turn farms, one-turn stables with pyramids, and right, like their gauchos are quite strong. Their stables are disgustingly good, right? And there's a lot of stable tiles on the map in general. This would be an S tier civ if stable tiles were like guaranteed, or if there's like a ton of stables. But there's not that many, so for that reason, it's going to be A plus. But it's an extremely strong civ. Armenia, the civ is so weird. I don't even know. Where do we put it? I believe I put it in D. No, I put it in B. Bottom of B. So Armenia is a civ where you need to high roll mountains, but your high roll on mountains isn't even that good. And then you have to go observatories to really see the true benefit of the civ. And that is completely out of the way most of the time. It's a big bonus once you get your observatories up, but it's just so late. I've had really good games on this civ. I'm not saying the civ's like bad and unplayable, but I've gotten turn 90 arties on this civ and stuff. Like it can be really, really good. It can be if you high roll. You need to, but it's such a weird high roll to want. Like mountains, like what the fuck? Like that doesn't even make sense. And do they even have a bias? Like bias hill, avoid jungle. That's like okay, that's a pretty good bias, but I don't know. Not. And then the spare pets are pretty bad. It's just a weird civ in general. I think if you're gonna high roll on something better. That's the way I see it. Okay, Assyria. This is a personal favorite of mine. I think they are one of the strongest tradition civs in the entire game. You know, you can consistently get sub 40 Oracle on the civ. For those who don't know, what you do is you build a monument in your first city, and then you play tradition. Then you tech writing right away, and then you'll get a free library. Um, so it lets you tech really fast. It lets you get a ton of culture because the library has culture on it, and it starts with a great work. So it's like 4 culture in that building. So you can finish tradition. I finished tradition on turn 37 on this civ before. It's just disgusting. Um, Additionally, they scale really well with the artillery. You can always play honor and do siege towers. It's pretty flexible civ. Not that great for liberty. You know, I think it's a top 5 tradition civ. I think it's a strong honor civ. Piety and liberty, not so much, but pretty good. Pretty good all around. Australia. Australia is just solid. You know, I think with the worker change about how workers can now improve stuff, this almost nerfed Australia. But, you know, not needing optics to have 2 movement in the water is quite strong in general. But, you know, again, I've had incredibly good games on this civ. But from a consistency standpoint, it's not all there. I think it's one of the best civs for settling inland as a coastal player. But compare that to the other coastals on this tier list, I think there's a clear difference. I think you can generate a lot of momentum, though. And I think it's just a strong civ. Nothing out of the ordinary. This is more of like, you know, it's almost like generically strong. The other thing is, you know, they get a second workshop, but it's on a constabulary. It's not that great. You know, I'm not gonna be like, yes, can't wait to build my constabularies, right? But it makes a useless building good. Usually, you can have time to build them in that gap period, right? Instead of building, you know, like a textile mill or bank or something, you could build a constabulary. And it does give you a lot of hammers, and you can have pretty good hammers. And you know, it's a fine civ. I think the workers are actually the best part about the civ. Um, you know, having increased movement as well as having double medic is very underrated. But again, it doesn't scale that. It scales really well, but it's not going to propel you forward most of the time. So this is a controversial one. This is definitely like probably one of the most controversial ones on the list. Austria is one of my favorite civs personally. So I think they're super good. They have the best bias in the game, which is hill bias. I think you can consistently get a lot of gold on the civ with hill bias. I think in general, Austria is a civ that can be very, very flexible. I think they're best played on like 3 or 4 city tradition, wonder spamming the shit out of the game. And then you buy a ton of CS allies later on as order, and then you scale to space. Or you can do like some type of mixed medieval attack by buying like 2 CS next to someone and inheriting the entire military of all the cities. It's just really fun. The Civ is really, really cool. You can do a ton of different stuff on this Civ and have a good time. Would definitely recommend playing it. This is drastically underplayed Civ, I'd say. Um, but in general, I think it's pretty good. So IU bids is next. Everyone knows I'm a big honor guy and liberty guy. So IU bids kind of just fits this theme perfectly, right? They can play liberty without needing pyramids, which is just huge tempo, less risk, and they can play honor. They're the best archer civ in the game. If you're able to archer, right? They're obviously risky because you're not always able to get the archer off, but I think also these are sorted, strongest in each tier. But if you're able to archer a CS, you're gonna have the best tempo of any civ, right? Getting that free temple lets you get a free religion from it. It also gives you happiness, so you can just annex it right away. Very, very good. Aztec. I am an Aztec believer. A lot of people don't believe in Aztec, but I think, the floating garters are really strong. Usually you have happiness problems on tradition, which means that you're playing well. They're able to have crazy high pop. Get a lot of wonder spam. I've won multiple aesthetics games on Aztec. So, overall, I think it's a strong civ. I think new players kind of overvalue it a little bit, but I think it's. The problem is it's kind of stuck on tradition because you need the happiness bonuses. Playing them Liberty or Honor, you're just asking to have really bad happiness issues. It can be done. I've played them Honor before, and it's good. I've seen Bardock have crazy games on Liberty Aztec before the nerf to Goddess of Love. But yeah, I don't know. I think the Civ's good, but not as good as new players think, but better than a lot of the older players think. Babylon. This might be another controversial take, but I think this Civ is very strong. I've had my fastest RD timing ever on this Civ, which was 87. I had with 150k mil. I had also one of my best honor games ever on this Civ, which was like 8 city states captured by turn 50 because the archers on this thing are disgusting. They're like compos. So you're allowed to take walled CS. You're allowed to take hilled CS. You can do anything on Babylon, and you'll have success doing it with honor. So because of that, the consistency makes it really, really strong. Yeah, I think Babylon in like base games obviously disgusting and like permabanned, but I think in Lek they're also really good. A lot of people undervalue them. There's a couple people in Lek that ban them, but most people ban them for the wrong reasons. It's not for the scientist. Like the scientist isn't that important. What it does do is it encourages you to go philosophy because philosophy is traditionally a pretty useless tech. So while you're there, it's like a zero opportunity cost oracle. So that's why Babylon's really good for tradition. Additionally, it's just phenomenal for archering CS, and you can play the Civ anyway. You'll have a good time. Piety is a great example, right? You want to go philosophy for temples. Okay, Babylon helps you with that. So, just a good Civ. I think it's drastically undervalued by other high level players. Because they were arguing with me a lot on this one, but Belgium can be the best Civ in the game, in my opinion. If they get coconut or they get cocoa or something, they're the best Civ in the game. The plantations are. If plantations were guaranteed, they'd be double S in my opinion. I think they're better than Russia if the plantations are double S because they've got happiness. They have extra happiness on their zoos. They want to play Liberty. They have tons of extra hammers with the plantation stuff. I think it's just so good. Just such a strong Civ. You can have such incredible games. You can play them in any way. They're super flexible in that way. Yeah, just so good. Now on the opposite end, we're gonna have Boars. Boars is kind of shit. They don't really do much, non-freshwater farms is you think it makes really bad land pretty good, but that's not really something you like. Either way, you still have bad land, right? It's like uh, it they're consistent in that regard, but it's just there's a lot that goes into bad land. It's not only just no rivers, right? Additionally, the culture thing comes way too late. They have a really cool unit, but the culture thing on fertilizer just it makes no sense. Just like if you put it somewhere that's not fertilizer, right? I mean, thematically, fertilizer makes sense, but from a balance perspective, put it on like rifling or even earlier than that, maybe like architecture or something. Then it might be pretty good, like. But even then, like it's only non-freshwater farms, so it's just not that good. I don't know. Bolivia, this is a civ I feel like people haven't experimented with much, with enough. I think the civ it's pretty good. It has probably some of the best late game scaling in the game, but every bonus is so late, right? The happiness, or no, that's Colombia. What does Bolivia even do? Um, yeah, Renaissance, modern, or industrial, right? So it's just late bonuses, and the bonuses aren't even that great. So I will say like the extra hammer on mines is really big for super late game, but I don't know. The Colorados are good in general. They're strong units, but not enough to make this civ like much better than B, in my opinion. Brazil, another trash civ. Jungle bias is typically terrible. It slows your game down immensely. They have one of the best unique improvements in the game, but it comes on too late. If you're not dead as Brazil by industrial, you're gonna have a great time, but most of the time you'll be dead. So Brunei, this is a really good civ. I think this is our first coastal or second coastal we're ranking. With the changes, I think they got a lot better. Having the ability to, you know, having the ability to make coastal tiles not shit is really good. It's really good, especially with them coming on at nav. It gives you incentives to build your seaports anyway, right? Just super strong, and the culture you get from that is huge, huge. Um, Bulgaria. I'm gonna make a couple people pretty mad with this, but I think Bulgaria is pretty shit. They get gold on wheat tiles and cattle tiles. I've played a couple Bulgaria games. It's fine. The science you get from the writer slots is such bait. Early science, especially like if you want to do like a houses Bulgaria thing, it's such bait. It's just so shit. Just doesn't do anything. It's not what you want from your game, right? If you had the Mysore effect, that'd be better. But the science you get is just it's a good way to bolster tradition, I guess, right? I think it's like 3 science per slot. Yeah, 3 science per slot. One culture from science buildings isn't actually bad, but 3 science per slot is like 6 culture in most games. 6 science in most games. Like is 6 base science really that valuable? Like I don't think so. And then the main reason it's bad is this Canista is bad. It's just a terrible unit. It gets shit on by pikes, right? And that's the most common unit in the game at that era. So just not good. Burma. I think this is another one of those civs that is just kind of average. It gets a lot of bonuses that are good. I think I picked them in the second finals. They get a couple bonuses that are just strong. Lots of happiness on the civ, so that's always good. Stoneworks is one of the best buildings, and being able to build it in every city is just good. But the cannon shit, and then the happiness UA is definitely good, but it's just kind of average. It's just like very basic abilities, nothing fancy, but it's good. It's good. So the next one we have up is Byzantium. Personal favorite of mine. I value them higher than this civ. than where I'm putting them. But I think in general they're weaker than like I like them a lot, but that doesn't mean I think they're super strong, if that makes sense. I think they're very flexible. They're almost they're not forced piety, but you're incentivized to do piety. I don't know. It's a good civ. The weird part about this is the cataphracts kind of suck, and then the building you have, it's a good building, but it comes on late. Um, Canada in general. So yeah, Byzantium, like the building, it's an amphitheater, and amphitheaters usually you don't want to build right away. It's like a lot of lost tempo. So, Canada, Canada is pretty good. Nothing crazy. I think they can be crazy if they get lucky, but even when they get super lucky, that's not that insane. It's just a lot of gold, right? And everyone kind of knows what you're going to be doing. You're going to be going bombers, probably going to be playing commerce, etc. It's fine. It's a fine civ. Nothing to write home about. That's my opinion on Canada. I think Carthage is really good. Um, I think compared to the other coastals that are really high up, um, I think Carthage is a little weaker, but one of the best Liberty civs in the game. They're the OG messenger civ. They can also play tradition really well. They can play piety well, right? It fixes a lot of the gold problems you have, but that's about it. I mean, they have a good unit. They're really good for Starlight. Good civ, but that's about it. Celts, I kind of like, after doing this tier list, I've kind of realized like I don't like Celts that much. I think they're strong, but I don't think they're that good. I think some people think they're insane, but I think they're just kind of good. I don't know. Free Pantheon is worth something, but when that's the whole civ, pretty much, it's just meh. They have an upgraded mint, which is nice, but not enough in my opinion. Okay, Chile. I think the civ's kind of trash. I think with the cartography nerfs, Chile got worse, and they didn't get anything better. They have a really good unit, just comes impossibly late, and you're never gonna get to it. So China, I think this civ is okay. The civ's oriented around preparing you for Chuko news, um, with the gold from libraries and stuff, and incentivizing you to build them. But I think in general, China's not particularly strong. They scale pretty well with the generals, but it's not enough to make them like much better than that. This is assuming Colombia works as intended. I think they are very good. I've had some crazy games on them, like I've had like turn 102 labs on them, and a couple times, and they're very good. Sending an early hammer cargo on a coastal can be kind of stupid, and you don't need like their granaries are good. And it's just a good civ, right? They're really good with a really unusual pantheon. If you get lucky and have like a lot of forests and stuff, which traditionally isn't that good of land, like they make it work. So I think it's a good civ. I think people should try to play it more once it gets fixed. Pretty undervalued, I'd say in general. Cuba's really good. Don't see a lot of people playing it. Speeds up your early game with culture. Um, so you can have some really fast Liberty starts. I've seen people like I'm a big fan of culture. Like I think culture is king, and um, I think in general like building opera houses is good. Um, Unhappiness from ideology pressure is genuinely huge, and then the dance hall is what makes them really strong. So they get a forge effect by building an opera house, as well as happiness, and it's cheaper. It's so good, man. It's so good. Like this is such a good building. I think it fixes a lot of things opera houses have wrong with it, is that they're really expensive, and that, you know, two culture is not that much to change your game. Okay, now it's four, and it's one happiness, and it's a forge. Just such a strong. It's so good for wide. Um, yeah. All right, Denmark. Now we're really. This is like one of the best civs in the game. Um, with the changes to embarkation, makes it so strong. Early on, the longship fixes a lot of the coastal problems where you can't settle settlers without escorting them. You can now do that on Denmark. You should never get a settler taken on Denmark, in my opinion. Um, Very, very strong civ. I think they have a really cool attack with berserkers. It scales super well with embarkation buffs or disembarkation buffs. Just a very good civ. Egypt. This is one of the oldest civs in the game, but very, very good. Egypt is super consistent, and that's why they're strong. You can play them anything, they'll be good. Literally, you can play them anything, and they'll be good. Really good, really, really good for piety. Second, especially because piety, because the burial tomb. What the heck? The burial tomb does not require gold maintenance, which is such an important thing in piety, right? Like -2 for gold maintenance is just like a lot, but not having gold maintenance is good, and obviously the 2 happiness is huge. So there's like 2 happiness per city, helps building wonders. The chariot's kind of useless, but in general, just very consistent. England, I think this is kind of undervalued. I don't think it's like super strong, but I think it's pretty solid, right? So with that in mind, I'm going to be putting them in A. I think they have a very consistent coastal attack. You don't need to play Explo. You don't need to get Great Lighthouse on this civ, and you'll still be able to properly war people in the late game, and at like frigates and stuff. So for that, they're really consistent. They're also really consistent settling cities because the 5 extra movement. It's just really good. Ethiopia, just another very, very strong civ. Super consistent. They have one of the best buildings in the game, the Stele. Just insane. The combat bonus is nice for defending cities and stuff. And even doing like some obscure attacks, but I think it's just very, very strong, very consistent. Even on tradition, you'll get 4 faith per turn or 8 faith per turn, starting on turn whenever you set your last city. It's just really good. You'll always be one of the first people to religion. You'll always be one of the first people to get a pantheon, and for that, you can't really. That's nothing to scoff at. Finland, I think the civ is insane at times. The early culture allows for really, really fast Liberty games. You can have some of the fastest chariot attacks you'll ever see on this civ. And they have a pretty good late game with sissies and being able to supplement not just land shipping people. They struggle in the mid game, but that's where Liberty really shines. So I think in general they're pretty good. France, one of my personal favorites. The UI is insane. The UA with the 1 extra culture is very good. Double theming bonuses is super nice for aesthetics. You can get some really high tourism numbers later on. Yeah, just a good civ. Really good. I like playing them Liberty and doing religious settlements or some food pantheon so I can work my unique improvements later on. Franks, this is very cookie cutter civ. They're just so generically boring. They're good. Like the unit's pretty good, and that's the Iroquois. Whoops. The unit's pretty good, and the faith is noticeable. I get on farms is noticeable, but you're not working a lot of farms early on. Like that's the thing. Like you're not working a ton of farms. You're working wheat and maize, and that's kind of it. So it's not like that much faith. It's not as much as faith as you think. It's a lot of faith later in the game, but that's kind of useless. So Iroquois, underrated civ. They're still not that good, but I think they are underrated, if that makes sense. I think you can have some crazy games on them. I think they're relatively unexplored because people just think they're bad. So maybe try them. Gaul. Where do I have Gaul? I think I have Gaul in A. Yeah. Gaul's good. You know, you're never gonna have a bad Gaul game, which makes them inherently pretty strong. But are they as strong as some of the other A tier civs? I don't think so. Their unit isn't that good because most of the time your opponent is always going to be chopping their stuff, especially when they're against Gaul. So you're not getting much of a bonus from there. Their unit's kind of bad. The wall is very good. So for that reason, I think it's pretty good. They're really good for Liberty, but that most people know that. So Georgia, this is a fairly unexplored civ. I think it's pretty weak. You know, when it came out, I thought the building thing was really cool, but in practice, it's weird because, you know, this is a civ that wants to Liberty crossbow people every game, and for that, typically you don't want to take a profit. So where are you getting this faith from? You know, I think they moved the faith from the walls. Like now it's 3 faith, 1 culture from strategics. Like it's cool. Unison gets golden age for kills. Like that's kind of useless. But the 3 faith it's cool. But like, why would you want to build a wall? So like now I have to like clog my build queues with a wall for faith. I mean it's 0 maintenance, which is nice. Like that can help me get a religion, but it just seems kind of weird. Germany. I think if you don't pass embargo city states against this civ, that's the best civ in the game. But everyone passes embargo city states, so it's A+. That's kind of it. Pagers are good. Mini urbanization effect is really good. I've had some crazy games on this civ. You can have insane hammers on this civ, like insane hammers. I'm talking like on 4 city tradition, I've had 600 hammers by turn 100, right? Like that's on 4 cities. Like that's something. I don't know. So you can have some pretty pop off games, but yeah. Okay. Next one. It's Golden. You know, I didn't really appreciate this civ until recently when I played the game that's actually on my YouTube channel. If you haven't seen that, definitely check it out. But I think they're so consistent with the early tributes. Even if you're not playing them honor, you know, just tribute some stuff as tradition, and you'll just get free workers and get a ton of gold and whatnot. Super good. The unit is pretty good. And then the annexation thing is genuinely super noticeable when you're playing. It's actually so noticeable when you're playing honor. So really good. Goths. People are gonna say this belongs in S or a double S. Like I think they're wrong. I think Goths is drastically overrated. It's a civ that kind of scares people, and the person you're against is always gonna build units against you pretty much. Their bonuses are very good if you turn the game into a skirmish. So if you turn the game into like war at Artie, this game ends at Artie's, like it's a really good civ. But if it goes past that, it's not that good. You're not gonna have a lot of pop. You're not gonna have like the bonuses are good for hammers, and that's about it. So and for that reason, I think it's really strong. But is it as strong and consistent as Babylon and Belgium? Like I would argue no. Miota is malding right now, but that's fine. Greece, you know, same reason as what we talked about in the unit list. Like this unit is like so useless, and a lot of the early games on that use. The Odeon is okay at best. 4 culture is good. Houses are writer specialists a lot. Like this is so dumb because you only want to stack it. So essentially, you're getting like a free. You know, you have this whole building is essentially just like 2 culture and 1 gold, which is noticeable, right? Especially when you're breaking through your second tree, it's genuinely noticeable. But houses a slot for guild writer specialist, like this is just the most pointless thing. Like you're only going to be working this in 1 city, so who cares? City influences tree half as slowly and recovers twice the typical rate. That's pretty good, but it's just I don't know. It's just not enough. It just seems like this is so useless, right? I don't know. Hittites, good civ, pretty strong. Generally, you know, I picked them in my first finals, and I actually won with them. They're really good because Lion's Gate is what makes them good, and then obviously the mine stuff. So if you get like, I think in that game I had Lapis, which is one of the best luxes in the game for Hittites. But 1 gold from mines is just super strong. Seeing where your iron is early on is also very good. But the walls are really what makes the Civ cool because they're cheaper. They're like 20% cheaper, and then additionally they have 2 gold and 2 culture. So it's sim bonuses that you can't really get from a lot of other things without paying a really high price. So you can really have crazy good culture games on this Civ fairly consistently, and you always have a lot of gold with this and the walls. So for that reason, I think the Civ is very, very, very consistent. But it's only consistently good. It's not consistently great. Really good Civ for Neuschwanstein in general. But yeah. Hungary, I think this is one of the best Civs. It's one of my personal favorites. But I think it suffers from a lot of things. So it's not like amazing. But I think it is one of the really best piety Civs if you can make it work. The problem is it's best played on Forest City piety, which means you're likely going to get beat to religion by someone, which means you're likely not going to get Salat. If you can get Salat Hajj every single time on this Civ, you're you're gonna have a good time. I've had one of my fastest internet timings on this Civ when I was doing aesthetics. It was actually in a tournament game. Very, very good. Super, super good. I think people play the Civ too often tradition when it's a piety Civ. All right, another broken Civ. Let's talk about Huns. Pastures are common and horse archers are broken. And that's all that you need to know. Inca. Okay, this is our first double S Civ. Consistency is king in Civ, and being able to arty someone over mountain or over hills, being able to push someone through with crossbows on pushing through hills on crossbows is so incredibly strong. The real thing for me is the settler mobility is just through the roof on this Civ, and that helps to have fast games. Like, moving your settlers out fast is what is a really important thing for having a fast game, and Inca can do it better than anyone. India. So this is a unit with a 10, right? This unit had a 10, and yet it's still dog shit, right? The Civ is so bad, right? The reason it's bad is because it gets this grassland bias, terrible. The Mughal fort is broken. The war elephant is broken. Like, these are some of the best stuff in the game for what they are, right? 2 happiness from a castle. You don't need walls. You just build Neuschwanstein right now. It's crazy. Plus 2 culture. It's insane. But it's a castle, so it's super expensive. And then, like, this is the biggest thing. You're gonna be unhappy. This Civ is cursed with always having a weak early game, grassland and happiness problems early on. Right? Like that. It's just like everything you don't want. So if you can survive the early game and you're relevant by turn 50, you're gonna scale incredibly hard. But most of the time, that's not what happens. So for that reason, they're pretty bad. Indonesia, I think this is another one of my hot takes, but I think the Civ is fucking shit. I don't think they do anything. I think old Indonesia that got the happiness for free every time they'd settle a coastal was really good. But because they have to settle islands, not that good. Chris Horsman's shit, and this, Garden is nice, but having 2 faith, it's so useless. The only important thing is you can build it without fresh water, because you're typically doing that. It's just like, I think this Indonesia stuff is good if it was how it used to be, but with the islands, you don't really want to settle that many islands super early, and later on, like, it can be good, but it's rare that you're settling all of them, and it's not a good tradition Civ for that reason. It's just weird. Ireland. This is another one of those Civs where it's kind of just like, okay, pretty generic abilities, I'd say, but if not for and for that reason, I think it would be like normally B. But the Fenian is so insanely good that it has to be higher. It has to be an A. So, Israel, really good piety Civ in general, but again, it's just something that is incentivized to go piety because they're I put Iroquois out of order, but their temples are actually more expensive, which is typically not good. But 1 food, 1 hammer is good. So you want to play piety with the Civ typically. But anything that's kind of incentivized towards piety, I kind of rank kind of low. The Maccabee's useless, and then Culture from Plasters is good, but it's just it comes on too late for it to be like super noticeable. And alternatively, you could just take a Pantheon for it. So it's like a free Pantheon as a UA, and it's not that good typically. I mean, the Civ. I've had some good games on the Civ. Again, it's not a bad Civ. It's just, is it better than everything else? Like I don't think so. Italy post nerf. I'm convinced the Civ gets bad land bias. Like every single time I play the Civ, it's just bad land. But the Civ is good. It's just post nerf. Pre nerf, this was like an S minimum, but post nerf, it's probably somewhere in A. Japan, consistent. You know, it gets disciplined with its dojos, which is insane. But it's a coastal, so it's inherently a little weaker. But you know, just overall good. What really wants boat hammers? Yeah. Jerusalem. This is an S tier Civ. You can play it any which way. You'll have a good game. It scales super well late game with core house happiness. And getting a free religion is very valuable. It's not a free Pantheon, unlike Celts. It's a free religion. And that's why Jerusalem's better than Celts. That and a couple things, but yeah. Khmer, strong Civ. You know, gonna have happiness problems likely, but you're gonna grow really high. You're gonna have a ton of pop. The attack, your elephant attack is insane. And yeah, just really good. I don't know. Kill. No, that's Mysore. Whoops. Kill. I don't like this Civ. I think it's fine, but I don't. If you compare it to like a lot of the other stuff, I'm just not convinced it's that good. Congo, really good. You can have such a good early game. The problem is the happiness you lose is genuinely super noticeable. You know, I've played a couple games as Congo, and have crazy good early games, have so much money, really good crossbow Civ, but the happiness is it's a huge hit. I know some people love this Civ. It's super defensive and stuff. Maybe it's undervalued, but for me personally, I think it's like somewhere in A. Like, would I take them over Byzantium? Probably not. Kind of how I think about it. Korea, good Civ. Bonuses come on pretty early. Yeah, like the one science from Palace is really nice when pushing through those early techs. The watch is kind of useless. Turtle ship's good, but the scientist is really what it scales from, and for that reason, I think it's good. It's just, you know, not that good. Lithuania, worst Civ we've rated so far. Too reliant on getting a religion from someone else, and then the bonus is you're a loot pinata. This is a loot pinata Civ. This isn't anything else. This is like, okay, like whoever kills Lithuania is gonna have a really good game. That's kind of how I see Lithuania. Macedonia, personal favorite of mine. I played the fuck out of this Civ. They're so flexible because they're not flexible in a sense. You always go honor, but you can play them any way. You can play them tall, you can play them wide. You can settle 10 cities, and the barracks are so good. The only thing this needs barracks hammers. So if it doesn't get barracks hammers, it's like at least down like 1 or 2 ratings. But if it gets barracks hammers, it's an S Civ. It also has the best classical attack in the game, so has to be an S tier Civ in my opinion. Madagascar suffers from a couple things. You know, it's forced piety, but its bonuses are really good. So on piety, so it's the best forced piety Civ of like the 3 or of the 2, but anything that's forced piety is just weak, in my opinion. Like, you can't convince me like if it's forced piety, it's good. Like, no, I think it can be good. I've had some good games on it, but I think in general it's pretty weak. Manchuria, super consistent, really good cav Civ, really good landship Civ. You know, I think it's still got the stable thing, right? Or is that nerfed? Stables are built 100% factor. Yep, you can overflow stables. That's such a huge bonus. Like, having volley promos on cav is insane. No gold maintenance actually matters. banks are substantially cheaper. Like, holy shit. Um, I love this Civ. It's so good. The Cavs are also really good. Yeah, just really good. I don't know. Man, Maria's interesting. I think they're pretty consistent. They're too reliant on getting ruins. They have a good UA, or good UI, I mean, but I think they're very defensive because you can spawn a unit and then instantly fortify it somewhere else, which is very, very strong. But it's not. I They can have really crazy games. I've had some insane games on this Civ because if you get a lucky ruin, you could get a turn 0 pop ruin. Right? Like, what? It's like one of the only civs in the game that can do that. Um, so if you get lucky, like, this civ's crazy, but if you don't, it's pretty average. The UI is really good though. Maria, everyone knows my opinion on Maria. It's just bizarre. Even post nerf March, it's still an S. If it still had the March, it'd be double S. Maya, very, very good. Very flexible. Can kind of do anything. I think a lot of people get baited by the bonus too much, like the mine calendar. If you don't get it by turn 42, that's fine, right? Like, it's not a big deal. You can get it later than that, and you're gonna have a good game. The main thing is, like, the shrines give 2 faith and they also give 2 science. Like, that's what makes this Civ crazy. And the mine calendar helps with scaling for sure. Okay, Mexico. I really like Mexico. I think pre-nerf they were a triple S Civ. They were probably the best Civ in the game. I used to ban them, permanently ban them, but I think they're very strong. I think they can still have good games. I think the worker tribute thing is very, very good. But instead of getting influence now, you have to tribute workers or tribute gold or whatever. And for that reason, it's not that good. But if you get an early spear, this can be game changing. Mongolia, I think this is just better Arabia in every way. They have pretty much the exact same attack, and then Mongolia just gets sim bonuses. Additionally, it's really good at archering. It has the same type of thing as Babylon, where it can consistently archer, but it's less flexible in that way. So it's an A tier Civ. Also, everyone kind of knows Keshiks are coming, so just you're not going to surprise anyone. You shouldn't really get that kill frequently. Moore is a personal favorite of mine. I think the only reason this isn't so high is because castles are, like, annoying to make, and you have to build walls first. If you didn't have to build walls, I think this would be an S Civ. But because you have to build walls first, I think it's an A. The castles they get are probably some of the best buildings in the entire game. It's like becomes Aztec in every single city with the castles. Obviously, Neuschwanstein makes this crazy, and the medieval bonus to buildings is very, very much appreciated. You can kind of just crank out all of your infrastructure. You'll always be able to build your castles by the time of Renaissance, and you won't have any build queues at all. So you'll always pretty much just jump right into zoos. Such a good Civ if you're good at sim. Morocco, lots of gold. That's kind of about it. It's too inconsistent. The desert thing makes the tiles playable. If you don't get Petra, the Civ's shit. Mysore. The problem with Mysore is that they're so dependent on being tradition. If you have Liberty Land, it's really hard to play this Civ. Their arties are insane, but they're kind of forced tradition. So for that, they're A. But a good tradition game on Mysore can be one of the best ever. So it could be better than any Civ. But Nabatea, very consistently good early. Pretty much guaranteed a worker buy or a scout buy early on. You can meet everyone really fast. Explore the map. Vision is very good, and it's one of the reasons Tonga is going to be rated so highly. But I think they got nerfed at one point. I remember they were just insane for a while. Freshwater Farms at math is really good because it lets you just go straight workshops on Liberty. But the scout may not attack. Not being able to steal over hills, like repeat steal workers from over hills, is not that good. And then this Caravanserai is is good. It gets 1 more gold and then 1 more food in the city. I think it used to be 3 food in the city, and then it was insane. But desert bias makes it weaker, and you know, I think it's a good civ. I think people don't play it as much as they should, but yeah. Netherlands, I think it's good. Lots of early sim bonuses. The entire civ now is this: 1 happiness and 1 gold. It's a lot of gold, a lot of happiness. Polders are baits. Like, you can't tell me this is worth improving until after economics, because it's just not. Like, it used to be polders. This civ used to be like at least A plus, potentially getting up to S here. But with this change where it consumes the worker, it's just not good, in my opinion. It's just not good. Near wetlands, marsh, floodplains. It's just not that. I don't want that. Sea Beggar got nerfed pretty hard, so. New Zealand. Everyone knows my opinion on New Zealand. I think this is the only civ that's coastal that should be ranked double S. It's the best coastal in the game by far. You can have some absolutely crazy games on the civ. It's very consistent. Lets you do anything, unlike every coastal. Like, you can skip shrine consistently. You can always get faster than average. You can get worker buys very consistently. You can push through science. Right. The one problem about this civ is that the way that it's coded, it's not 100% random. It leans into one thing. So, for instance, if you get unlucky and you get like the science one, you're always going to get science. You're not always, but like 80% of the time, you're going to get science from meeting people or city states. So for that reason, it's not that good. But you know, if you get lucky and that is a culture one, then it's really good. I've had some of my best games ever on this civ. They're just incredible. Normandy, kind of mid. It's pretty, I don't know. The UI is good, but it's not enough to make them good. Norway. The reason this is so high is because if you get a crazy high roll, this is the best civ in the game, right? Like, this is the best civ in the entire game if it gets its high roll. But if it doesn't, it's still pretty good because you're likely going to have an island with one. On average, you'll have like at least one city that's full tundra. If you get your cap and everything else that's full tundra, this is the best civ in the game. So that's why it's there. Nubia, where do I put this? I put this in B. You know, the whole value of the civ is being able to skip an early scout, and that is valuable. I think you can really have fast tradition games on the civ, but I don't know. I'm not sold that that scout is worth putting it much higher. I think it can be really good, but it's luck. Like, it's Oman, worst civ in the game. Just gonna leave it at that. It's just the worst civ. Mostly because coastal CSs are really shit, and everyone knows that you only have one play, so it's not good. Ottomans, incredibly good civ. Can play anything. Usually wants Piety second, or Piety first. You know, everyone is. If you haven't gotten attacked by Ottomans yet, like, you're in for a treat. This is the civ that kills 2 people at already minimum. Palmyra. I think this civ is underrated as fuck. I think a lot of people don't play this civ. I think they should try it. I think it's very good. I think it is terribly underrated. And I think, you know, it's super defensive with the heavy charge horses. It's very consistent with the, you know, with the, what am I trying to say here? It's consistent with the freshwater stuff. Building watermills in every city is huge. Problem is, this amphitheater isn't like that much better, and it has desert bias. But I think, you know, having production from lakes is good. Doesn't require gold maintenance, is genuinely significant on an important building like that. So yeah, Persia, broken. Gonna leave it like that. Philippines. Persia's good because the GA. That's it. Persia and GA is the best civ in the game. And they're usually in GA. Philippines. After the nerf, I think this was a double S civ, but I think after the nerf, it's somewhere in S. I think it's in a pretty good spot. I think it could get hit a little harder and it'd be fine. What makes this civ really strong is actually the national church. This used to be cheaper, which is what made it insane. But you know, it everything is so good, right? Like the early sim bonuses of worker movements and stuff like that. The Grias gives you something for late game, and then the National Church lets you scale forever and be really happy. Um, it's like normal Zeus, except it also gets culture and faith. Like just good, just really good. Venetia, I think this civ got worse after the quote unquote buffs or changes. I think it's in a pretty bad spot right now. I think it needs to get redone again. I think it's fine. I think the gimmick of the 2-pop settlers at optics is just kind of shit. It's not worth delaying your setties for one extra pop, in my opinion. Poland. I think this is overrated. I think most people overrate the civ. It's easy to defend hussars. You just fort pikes. You'll be fine. But the sim benefits of having Cristo inherently is very strong. Obviously, no surprise there. It can be really good. The stables, Ducal stables are good. 15 XP for mounted units is definitely no joke. Lets you skip armories, and if you build armories, like this could play order and get triple promoted. Like cab and stuff like that, and that's really good. The Lancer is obviously really good. Like 5 movement is nice, and then heavy charge is super good. But not having shock is very, very noticeable. So for that, they're A. I think if they still had shock, they'd be S. Poly, good consistently. The thing about the civ is you're like almost forced to play them glass cannon most of the time. Additionally, you're trading hammers for culture, which in my opinion is usually worth it, but it's like to what end, right? Like how far are you willing to go for this culture stuff? I've had crazy games on Poly, but most of the time it's like I'm so vulnerable early on. Like if I don't get slammed, like everyone else is trolling. So Portugal, very good civ. Scale is probably the hardest of any coastal in the game, except for the ones above it. Just it's the highest gold generation of any civ in the game, bar none. And the nows are insane. If you want to learn more about nows, you can listen to the raw footage of our UU tier list, and you'll kind of see what I'm talking about. Prussia. Civ sucks. Let's see. Internal trade routes. It's not a coastal. If this was a coastal, it'd probably be in B or A, but it's not a coastal. And then the unit's trash. And what else does it get? It gets the factory. Does not require coal. That's probably the best part about the civ as this, and that's kind of saying something. So the promos are cool, but like I don't know. I'm not sold. I've played it a bunch of times. Pre-nerf Prussia was fun. Post-nerf Prussia is not that fun. Romania, pretty stock standard civ, I'd say. Just gonna be an A tier. Not much to say about it. Managers are good, but that's about it. Rome, one of the top 5 best classical pushes in the game. Everything's kind of about that though, but they sim really hard late, which is why I've had them so high. The 25% production is really good, especially if you like having a lot of gold. You can buy a workshop or something, or buy a factory in your cap. Like, oh my god, that's gonna feel great. Russia, super consistent, lots of hammers, good cav. Krepos is kind of useless. Tundra, but is that true? I don't know. I feel like that's not true, but one production from all strats, just insane. So much hammers. Like, you settle on an iron tile and you play Liberty. Like, it's like a 5 fucking 5 base hammers in the city. If you take craftsman's 6 base hammers in the city, it's like turn you settle. Like what? Russia things, I guess. Scotland, pretty mediocre civ, very stock standard, nothing fancy about it. I don't know, just not sold. I'm not a Scotland believer. Shoshone, okay, this is like kind of a hot take, but I think they're insane. Where did it go? What the fuck? Where's Shoshone? Oh, here. I think they're an S civ. I think they are one of the best civs in the game. I think they're so consistent. You know, on average, you get around 4 runes, and that's all you need. You need 1 pop rune, you need 1 gold rune, and you need 2 compos. And with that, you can do anything. You can kill CS, you can kill a player, you can, deal with. You'll have no bar problems. You'll scale super hard because you got a guaranteed pop rune. If you get more runes than that, there's another pop rune. There's another gold rune. There's a potential culture rune, right? Like crazy. Siam, the civ sucks. Not even gonna bother talking about it. Just bad. Needs to change. Sioux, super consistent. Their planes are everywhere on this map, so for that reason alone, Sioux's insane. Sioux makes bad cities really good. Like for instance, if you have like a Lux, and then like I don't know, like planes, Like if this is your city layout, this city would normally suck, but on Sioux, this is the best city that you could ever ask for. And there's a lot of cities like this. So you settle on the Lux, and now you have 6 TPs. Only Sioux. Only Sioux. Songhai, one of the best scaling civs in the game. Rivers are the reason you don't capture cities later on, like in the super late game. And yeah, I think the rest of the civ is kind of is just good, right? Like the double, the triple gold from capturing cities is huge, especially for landship attacks and stuff like that. Amphibious is nice. Ignore terrain cost moving across rivers. That's the main thing. Also helps with your early sim with workers and stuff. Spain, best civ in the game. I'm not even gonna talk about it because anyone who plays with me knows I've been saying the civ needs to get changed for the longest time. Even without wonders, the civ is S. With think about it. Without a wonder, the civ is S. So with a wonder, it's just the best civ, right? And on average, you get 1 wonder a game. On average, you have a wonder. And then the exception is like, okay, I have 2 wonders. Okay, I just win. Like this is the thing about Spain. Like you can just win the game on turn 0 if you're Spain and you got a lucky map. Like that's not fair. The civ needs to get changed. This is the definition of a civ that is toxic for the game. Additionally, this is stupid. They ignore the tertio. The tertio is like fine. Like it's not that good, but the 100 gold is so stupid. Like this guarantees worker buys. 1 additional happy. The tile yields are obviously what we're talking about, but this is crazy. Like 2 culture, you're able to build this in way more cities now. So circuses were already some of the most efficient buildings in the game. Now they give +2 culture, and you can build them more frequently. I don't know. Like I said, I've been saying the sim needs to get changed for so long, and it's just so like this honestly is like on its own tier. Like I've not played with Spain for over a year because I ban it every single game. That's not true, but sometimes I don't ban it because I'm just like let's spice it up, and then I always regret it. Sumeria, this bonuses come on too late. The Phalanx sucks, and the Ziggurat's good, but the main problem with the civ is this is on drama and poetry, which is just too late. Sweden's so generic. It's just like I forget this is in existence. Like I forgot this civ exists. Like that's kind of where I'm at. Switzerland's good. I've played them a couple times, and I think they're really strong. they're not like incredibly strong. I think they're just balanced. You know, I think this is a good balanced civ. Early benefit from the city merchant stuff. They really good on commerce for that reason. But you know, you could play them honor second. This building is insane. Available electricity instead of refrigeration. Okay, that's huge. Additionally, the main thing doesn't require a zoo, which I mean you're gonna have a zoo anyway, but so that's kind of insignificant. But it's 50% cost. That's the thing. Like this is insane. This building is so good. 3 happiness, 3 culture, 5 base tourism. Right? Like, and there's usually mountains, hill bias, which is just good, just like the best bias in the game. Then obviously they have like one of the most indefensible attacks in the game. Like, you know, you could argue this Civ deserves to be an A plus, but I'm putting him in A. I think I haven't seen that much crazy stuff with Switzerland, so that's kind of why. But you know, maybe more people play him, blow my mind, and I'm like, okay, like I'm a Switzerland believer now. Tibet, UI is pretty good. The rest of the Civ is kind of bad. Prior to the original nerf, the Civ was, I'm not even gonna comment, but yeah. Gaul. I mean, Timurids. Timurids is really strong. I think, you know, they're very consistent. They're too reliant on having a good cap, in my opinion. But being able to bomber attack someone without commerce is just a huge bonus. Plus, they always have gold without commerce, so they can kind of do whatever they want late game. Additionally, the culture and science is very relevant, especially if you have a strong capital. So, you know, playing them apostolic piety can be really good. Tonga post nerf is it's an A plus civ. This used to be an S civ. Early information is really good, and then additionally, like the thing about it that I don't like as much is like this is too RNG. Like this is really good. Like this UA is insane, but the RNG part is this. Everything used to be either guaranteed. There was some stuff that was like, I think the faith was if it was 3 away, if it was surrounded by 3 water tiles, you'd get 2 faith. But it was guaranteed more food and it was guaranteed more culture or something like that. Because of this now, this just feels bad, right? Like it's a nerf to granaries in general most of the time, and you have to settle funky cities for it to be good. I think if the cities warrant it, it's insane. But I think in general, it just got consistently a little bit worse, and that's why it's not an S Civ. You could honestly argue this maybe an A. I don't know. I haven't played much Tonga since the nerf because I'm mourning the loss of a good Civ. Turkey, I think this is underrated. I think it scales with player. 50% ability to build opera houses, amphitheaters, like this. Anything that allows you to overflow additional buildings is really good. And then replace the public school. This is just good. This is just really strong. 20% cheaper to construct is definitely noticeable. UAE is fine. They're nothing special. Their Kasami Raiders are crazy, but I think they're too reliant on getting wonders early game to be consistently good, but not a good new player civ. Pretty good experienced player civ. Ukraine, lots of gold early, but again, it's just like one of those civs where you're just like, okay, like this doesn't really do much. The bonuses feel weird. You know, the 20 gold for each great person is interesting, but you kind of forget it exists. The most reason you play the civ is for the 2 gold to city connections, and then 1 food, 1 maize, 1 salt is inconsistent at best. I think if they are guaranteed those resources, it's a better civ, but in general, you're not. America, you know, it's hard not putting them in S because I think they're so good, but you know, you look above and you're like, okay, like all these civs are kind of better than America. America's so consistent. Definitely one of the best civs in the game, but yeah. Vatican, it's up there, man. It's really close to Oman. I don't know. These three, the 3 that are going to be here, I guess you go. Yeah, I'll just put you there. Like these 3 are so incredibly bad. Like they almost deserve another tier. Maybe Lithuania deserves in that list too. I don't know. Like these are just so shit. Like I would never even consider playing these in a realistic way. Yugoslavia comes online way too late. I've played the Civ so many times, and I if I can't make it work, I don't know. Maybe I'm just bad. But these three are just so shit. You know what? I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. They're on another tier. They're just so shit. Venice, good Civ, kind of generic. I don't know. It's like worse Portugal in every single way. So I don't know. Vietnam. Vietnam's good. Vietnam is really good. They can be insanely good. They're one of the high roll civs, obviously, but if you can get the high roll, they're crazy. Um, Wales. Wales used to be insane. They have one of the best UIs in the game. Probably second to TP, but um, putting them here feels pretty right to me. I think you could argue they deserve to be a little bit higher. Like maybe they're better than Poland. I don't know. Maybe they're better than Rome or I don't know. I'm not a Wales believer. I think usually you lack the food to really work these tiles. Oftentimes, I think they have hill bias, right? Yeah, bias hill. So this is one of the weird civs where like I think hill bias isn't like super important because oftentimes you have a mining lux, right? The nice thing about hill bias is you get a lot of sheep, but in general, not having a mining lux, like you're gonna have a mining lux, and like this Kair is essentially a mining lux, and then later on it's like it's better than a mining lux, so you don't want to work it anymore. It's just weird. So that's like the weird thing for Wales. Like whenever I play it, it just feels a little funky, but I could totally understand why people would think it's really good. Maybe I'm just playing it wrong, but I know I've played them tradition and have had a really good time. But most of the time I see like Liberty Wales land and yeah. Zimbabwe, this is assume the Civ works. Right now it doesn't work, but this Shonen Warrior is really strong early. Just build like 2 or 3 Shonen Warriors to get a bunch of tributes. Stone Mason, this is the reason why the Civ's good. It doesn't provide happiness, which is sometimes nerf, but most of those cities can't build it. Everywhere, everywhere should be able to build the stoneworks. That's the problem right now is that they can't. But the 2 culture at Masonry is just really, really good. And then Zulu, my personal favorite Civ is double S. They scale even without impies, they'd still be really good, and that's the crazy thing. They have also one of the best biases in the game. Like without impies, think about it. Without impies, which is the best unit in the game, they are still really good. Like without impies, they are probably like S. Okay, say less. I don't know. Just insane. The gold maintenance is super noticeable, but it's mostly this. So you're able to get you're able to get. It's the only civ in the game that can get every city to build air repair bombers. You can build air repair bombers in every single city if you're autocracy. So scales incredibly well. And then obviously like the bonuses to this are also the bonuses not just to impies but also to spears. So spears are one of the best units in the game. Like you should never die early as Zulu, but that's what your opponents should be doing. They should be trying to kill you, but realistically, your bonuses appear to spears so that you should never die. The main thing about Zulu that makes them broken is like the 25% less experience to promote is really good. And what that means is every time you use an impy, because the impies attack twice, you attack twice, instantly get another promo. Get attacked, attack another twice, get another promo. So you're just spamming promos on these civs. You're getting like heal promo, heal promo, heal promo. Like these impies are never dying, and they're constantly killing things better than them and trading into things in forts and stuff. Just so broken. All right, but I think that's it. Like this video was an hour and 14 minutes. Imagine if we had 6 other people talking. But hopefully this makes sense. Hopefully, let me know if you guys agree with this in the comments below. But until next time, thanks for watching.